abusua kura de bi ba ya sanso baabia abofo ne de ne nam ho apaso ne da dua yi eye state of the nation address nam ne etwitwa a ye de fa Ghana fa na baabia ye cheche ama obi nya bidie ma amaka enyi nyina yeso ye de ba ye kasa mu ni abobo so apese mu amu awu nsem ne de etuamu ye wo mu ankasa ya ubehunu na watumi ate ho ase na wahu de o mampanyine kan ye baabia odo o man ne kode obabeto ye de opeso ye de boa o man no watumi ate ni nyina afefe nti bremu ye ne wa na eche ye ne wa na etu mpasa omanna sa obehwe na wadoma boa na wahye ama ofufura ka bi wa bra osomfo DC poku konko ono champena na majimadwa sabri mampanyi state of the nation address na mebebum na wahunu nsɛm a ewom na fe ye de ne na to aso na watie ye wokan ye matiti ani di akyerɛ no watie mu nsɛm frigim ya hyase okada riders business yi ani ya sabri mampanyi si de electronic wine ba beba ani moto yi minim se be pragya type se be normal moto ya na nam yinu show ye watwenye because before elections no ye hu se no ono ankasa sa electric electronic vehicles electric vehicle no na otwibie car na yemfa petrol nguma ye se ba be charge no ye hu so ono ankasa no atra bi mu a na otwie efri ni fie ho kɔ ne na monte kakra test nti yasi ni friend beka so beto boabo wa bi he ni botoma na nurse bi so nti ebi kura no a na ya procure bi kura na se ye ni mpanifo bi adi nkomo a ye de beto o man nanim na fe yetimi procure bi ne de aba o man mu ne ato na fango a ne totu da bi aye che na ye de no amra nyina mahode kura na ho akwa atwe no nyina ano abrase e de ama yenti eze de moto de nyina mu beja fu ayusu abeye kakra bi se ne gas ba ya ye toche ya ne ubehu we se mafiri petrol mi ko gas mafiri we mi ko we saa na ye de ebe charge nso aba and the power bank so de ubehu na China fo yi so aye different one aba ebetum dia charge car any motor udu ati kurum ha ba sangrofo wo mo ho onwanwa yenkwa na ye se ICT nso so entity ya ye de nkoda ifam eno nso ye ba ba hyase nkora brem wo keji ho ye be review keji curriculum no na atumi aboa na fe ya ma omo nso entity afiri ahyase no a no enya nimde suahunu de afa computer yi ho afei teacher dabre initiative teacher for omayi mu first me makura ase susanso ene wo hwe teacher for ya teacher trainees ene kwakwa robi uniform esuru fufuo ase tuntum ne ya sport maamifo bi wo kwafuo moba na maame wayi menka akase tohwetohwe se de kwa so de ba sra so da ko ba afode na wajiji no ahwehwe ewo rubber kukuma bi wose fakoma teacher na dia akoma teacher onwe na beba no do ya ba saa omo dan omo tim soso omo ba beba na esiesie ho nyina kama ene teacher training fo minim yemvo omo nkobiem ena se no a ne so omo bum na ala waya no omo dia ne so omo die nti Mahama say schools bia ni ha kuremu ne payin so ye besi a yemfa teacher fo da brenka ho yenim rural areas bebre a nkurase yi teacher fo bi ko nso ba bi omo beda nti wose adwuma no kura sa manum obi wo ho kura ba bi obeda a wonya nti otimi kura kwete teaching adwuma no no afedo akwa akọpa adwuma foforo aye make so wonim de foforo wo area foforo no akwa akọpa no de atum sesema da sa ntuntum we ni hawe mu de ene me nna nkokora aban ba ya tese wose teacher fo mbekọ nkurase ne yewo akatua kakra de be soso de ama wo mu de na ma wo botoma ye de nti teacher dabre initiative Mahama se odeba afei nsuso free senior high school no Mahama si wosi su gram ye ntwamu china free SHS will not be cancelled ye baba ye ni ye nkoda ni anesem ni ade ni nyina Mahama de atuda PTA ho nsensem nyina wa de atuda e wa ha ye de ne brew afi double track system no that traffic light aso si ye disua no school kom no ni nyina wasi ye no nso etwa se fatase ye free won ti e behwe na ye free ho school feeding na anu ye hu nkoda bi o mo de aba for the first time o mo so mo go school ye feeding wo mo wetu wache ni ex da mimi suku am kwa de na nka wache ne gas na nka enchina kakra wo ho na to de bi akosua we mu de sanya atra na nkura ika na nokura pa de o mo si wo mo anyi bi da kosua pa ne wache hye kai hwan na de ma wache ani de ba mo ani ho ya asepemfo ani ase na de ani ko zonzon na kosua mienu egugu so na nkoda yi di wo manum so hunu yemfa ya funu pa nsabe nti enkoda yi asisese de ene atade o maria to the nti Mahama si free SHS no it has come to stay ye ba ba ye ne ye ne ye nkoda no so be didi persons with disabilities so yes university mo kwa mo mpia school fees enti se obi ade a woko ayi aba fresh fo obi e kwa ontu ahwe na ufiri wine ne kotu a obetua bibi no mo de mo a mo ye disabilities no se bi wadi dem oni pede o de 4 years na woko ani nyina be kwa wie ontu aka preba emfa ma ba ye be hwe ofiri bonto agenda 111 so Mahama kan ho asem wo se wo betuma si no bo people aka se ba kokura ni ho a ye bi a eye aduma ene de yampa wo ka no kore na no de ayi omede ma no mo ma wutwa ntro kakra se ba kokura ni ho a afidie bi gum trede de no so yenuanom kohwe ye afidie gumu be a onkrofo ohura ye duodua grass ne ade nti ba kokura ni ho a ye aduma ne de ye no kore ena USA din so Mahama se abeha ade ne se ya monka ye ena dona kwaku Trump ba ya wo se metwam nti wo mu adi AC nuro bre wo mu apemfo a ye de nuro yi net ya ye da mu ni ade nyina se ababa ya hawo abeda wo man so nenso won be pekwa ye be fa so a ye be hwe na yetumi atu ho anamo nti sabre ho nsem a makan Mahama se ye baba hwa revive nema bebre ti sende wa burubi so ye okeka ye na matiti ni dia ma won to no ananum ton ye nkwati do kan na wa unti.
Ghana has consistently missed its gross tertiary enrollment targets, with a rate below 22%, far from the 40% goal that has been set by 2030. Despite over 460,000 secondary graduates coming out annually, 55% qualify for tertiary education, and only 35%, 161,000 of the 460,000 enroll in tertiary education, leaving over 300,000 without access. To address this, government is introducing a no-fee stress policy to eliminate tertiary admission fees, which currently serve as a barrier to higher education for some students. This will be supported by an enhanced student loan scheme, which is called the Student Loan Plus. The no-fee policy will also cover all persons with disabilities. And for emphasis, persons with disabilities will pay no fees for tertiary education throughout their study. And so PWDs who gain admission to tertiary institutions will pay no fees. Additionally, TVET enrollment will be increased from 11% to 20% to boost employment. Mr. Speaker, rising enrollment has strained university infrastructure, causing overcrowding and inadequate accommodation. We are determined to expand access, improve quality, and align tertiary education with national goals, particularly in STEM. Feasibility studies for new public universities or campuses of existing universities to be established in the 6 new regions will commence this year. Seed funding for these projects will come from the GET Fund in order to enhance access. Government will this year engage with the existing public universities to identify suitable sites on their campuses, acquired lands, for the implementation of the private sector participation in the provision of hostels project. This is a partnership between government, the universities, and private investors to expand hostel capacity on their campuses. This will allow more students to be accommodated on the campuses to allow for a better learning environment. Mr. Speaker, academic freedom will be upheld. We will not interfere in the administration of our tertiary universities. And our hope is that the institutions will ensure good governance in their administrative practices. Mr. Speaker, next, our health sector faces significant challenges that jeopardize the very foundation of affordable health care. The Ministry of Health has a total liability of nearly 15 billion cedis when co-financing obligations, judgment debts, and payments to clear medical commodities at the ports are all put together. The last major hospital equipment replacement program was undertaken in 2014 when I was president. Since then, most hospital equipment in the Ghana Health Service facilities have deteriorated or broken down. Mr. Speaker, The Agenda 111 program, which was started as a knee-jerk reaction during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the Ghanaian public had begun to appreciate the significant investments that the previous NDC administration had made in healthcare facilities, and began to lament the many hospital projects that had stalled under the previous administration. A promise was made to build 111 hospitals. Mr. Speaker, I'm sad to note that there is no dedicated funding source for such a gargantuan project. There is no dedicated funding source for this gargantuan project. Mr. Speaker, for the record, as I speak, not a single Agenda 111 hospital is operational. In any part of Ghana, I challenge you, not one is operational. Mr. Speaker, and it is worth disclosing, that $400 million has already been disbursed under the Agenda 111 project. Mr. Speaker, at a rate of approximately $80 million per hospital, this $400 million spent could have completed and made operational at least 22 of those hospitals. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the money should have been focused on completing a number of hospitals and making them operational instead of spreading it over the current 111 hospitals. As I speak, some are at the foundation level and not a single one is operational. I have directed the Minister for Health to present us with a plan on the way forward for this program. And let me add that we are open to public-private partnerships and franchising to complete and operationalize these hospitals. Mr. Speaker, one of the most pressing issues confronting our health sector today is the USAID's sudden 90-day pause in services without prior notice and the looming threat of complete withdrawal of programs that do not align with the USAID's strategic interests. Programs that will be affected include the delivery of medical commodities to regional medical stores and health facilities in the Upper West, Upper East, Northern, and Savannah regions. USAID support for the National HIV/AIDS Control Program includes the supply of antiretroviral therapies in the Western, North, and Afro regions. These will also be affected. The withdrawal puts at risk approximately $78 million in earmarked funds for malaria, maternal and child health, nutrition, and HIV/AIDS. It also covers some programs being run at the Noguchi Memorial Institute in research. The impact will be challenging without urgent intervention. I've therefore directed the Minister of Finance to make immediate financial arrangements to mitigate this loss. And I expect that this will be reflected in his budget, which will be presented to this House next month, on March 11th. Working with the NHIA, will revive the Addo mobile healthcare vans. These vans will provide OPD, ophthalmology, dental, ENT, cancer screening and care in the remote and most vulnerable communities in our country. An earlier attempt to provide mobile health facilities was abandoned after the change of government in 2017. Mr. Speaker, public health experts are grappling with the conundrum of new diseases and re-emergence of old diseases. The unpredictable nature of disease outbreak suggests we must make our health systems more resilient to shocks. Since October last year, Ghana has faced a severe cholera outbreak. Implementable business proposals will be supported with business development training, mentorship, access to startup capital, marketing, and networking to operationalize their innovations and business ideas. We will also launch our flagship National Apprenticeship Program to equip at least 10,000 young people in the informal sector with employable skills, including providing apprenticeship fees and startup kits when they have completed. The Youth Development and the Interior Ministries will facilitate the training of our young people in the Okada business. In areas such as road safety regulations, financial literacy, and digital skills, as well as facilitating the acquisition of motorbikes. We will introduce electric motorcycles on a high purchase scheme to eliminate the use of petrol and make their businesses more profitable. Mr. Speaker, Her Excellency the Vice President's Empowerment for Women and People with Disabilities program will also be launched this year. The program will target women and people with disabilities and other vulnerable groups to build their capacity and offer them access to finance to create their own jobs. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovations will also focus on developing youth IT skills and fostering innovation. Under the 1 Million Coders program, young people receive training in coding, web app development, digital marketing, and other digital skills. This initiative aims to equip them with the necessary skills for employability in the digital ecosystem. We must provide meaningful and relevant education to prepare our youth for today's technology-driven job market. Despite various reforms, issues related to low-earning incomes persist within Ghana's educational system. I'm committed to ensuring that quality education remains a top priority. The system we have inherited is outdated in many ways and must be realigned to meet the needs of the 21st century and the fourth industrial revolution. Recognizing the urgent need for national dialogue on education and in the spirit of inclusive governance, I launched the National Education Consultative Forum on February 18th in Ho. I look forward to the recommendations which we will incorporate into our sectoral policy reforms. Mr. Speaker, even though Article 38 of the Constitution guarantees equitable access to education across Ghana, 30 years after the Free Compulsory Universal Basic Education FQ program was implemented, its full objectives remain unmet. To tackle this issue, government will redefine the scope of basic education and introduce the Zero to Hero initiative to enhance foundational literacy and numeracy. Additionally, ICT training will be integrated into early childhood education at the basic level. Over the next 3 years, it will be expanded to cover at least 300 classrooms, 30 centers of excellence, 1,000 teachers and district teacher support teams, focusing on the teaching of mathematics and literacy. This year, the Ministry of Education will fully implement a new curriculum for senior high technical schools and STEM schools, introduce a standardized national sign language for hearing impaired learners from kindergarten to SHS, and review the kindergarten and primary school curriculums. To increase access to quality education, we will scale up our social intervention programs like the capitation grants, the feeding grants for special schools, and the government's BECE registration initiative. Mr. Speaker, to promote inclusion and equity, the government will enhance and resource the Islamic Education Unit to recruit more Islamic and Arabic tutors for English-Arabic schools. We will establish STEM and TVET schools in underserved and peri-urban communities. We will provide scholarships to brilliant but needy students in deprived communities, especially for study in law, medicine, and engineering. We will support Islamic colleges of education with infrastructure and logistics, and will enroll youth in Zongo and deprived urban communities in the National Apprentice Program and offer free technical and vocational training. Mr. Speaker, it is important to continue to retain and motivate our teachers in all schools, especially in the rural areas. Government will begin plans for the implementation of the 20% allowance for teachers who agree to serve in rural schools. District assemblies are going to be involved in this scheme to ensure that the teachers are present and teaching in the schools that are selected. This scheme will reward such teachers for their sacrifices and ensure quality education nationwide, not only in urban centers. Mr. Speaker, as part of our Teacher Dabre initiative, the construction of teacher accommodation units to improve welfare and attract teachers to rural areas will commence this year. Mr. Speaker, no new school will be built in this country without teachers' accommodation. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, once again for emphasis and for the record, I, John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, will not cancel the free SHS program. I will not cancel the free SHS program. I am determined to make it better by improving its implementation. And also, for the record, students who have benefited from the free SHS since its inception are about 3.4 million. The figure of 5.1 million beneficiaries, as put out by the previous administration, was an exaggerated and false narrative calculated to achieve political credit. Mr. Speaker, while the free SHS program has improved access, the implementation of the program leaves much to be desired. The outcomes of the ongoing National Education Forum will guide our reform efforts in this sector. Mr. Speaker, in line with our promise, the Minister for Education has announced the restoration of Parent-Teacher Associations, PTAs, in the running of schools. It is important for parents and communities to participate in the administration of their schools. The Ministry of Education and GAS will, however, ensure that PTAs do not impose unbearable financial burden on parents and students who cannot afford them. Mr. Speaker, the double track system remains a challenge, and we are committed to eliminating it by accelerating school infrastructure expansion and completing stalled educational projects. To fund this, the Education and Finance Ministries are working to uncap the GET Fund so that we can accelerate projects in secondary schools. As promised, we have begun improving secondary school feeding, and the children are getting better quality food as I address you. Mr. Speaker, efforts to decentralize school feeding and food management include strengthening procurement and store management records capacity. Once completed, food procurement and management will be fully handed over to the secondary schools to do their own food procurement. Mr. Speaker, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are central to national development, STEM. We'll therefore expand STEM programs at all levels to equip all students for the global economy.
Abusuafoɔ ɛne ayi mampanyin John Dramani Mahama ɛna ate ya ɔboro nsɛm so de gu okadafoɔ sese yɛ nneɛma business no ɛbɛsɔ bisi ɛbɛtoto nneɛma ama mo so ɛnkyɛ legally na mo yɛ mo adwuma ICT ho nsɛm a yɛde kɔ nkora mu teacher dabre initiative a Mahama ɛde ɛba ɛne double track system a yɛbɛ eliminate school feeding a yɛbɛhwɛ sɛ nkora no bɛdi aduane pa disability foɔ mbɛkɔ university free agenda 111 ya ɛne sika bebre sika tutu dia yehia ɛde bɛwie nso baako koraa incomplete ɛno koraa no wɔse private sectors no koraa na sɛ private partnership bi a bɛsɛ mo bɛsom ne yɛtumi wie no mo nyinaa you are all welcome nti woyɛ ankorankora na bɛtumi akɔso no apatena with aban na wayi hospital ne baako no maboa me asi no wawie na wo ne aban akyɛ shares na ɛneɛ mo nyinaa you are welcome monkɔboa ɛne nyinaa wɔ mu a ɛyɛ yɛbɛba abɛgye aresa abusua papa na akasa a yɛaborɔboro so no nti wei deɛ wankasa wate bi yɛde wobɛsi a DC Poku Kwawanko Bono Champion and Abusua yɛde wasi.
One Vision News, your best online news portal.